welcome back everybody. I hope you're all doing well and getting set for Christmas. Got DJ Big Al on tonight. Some really good stories about how he developed into the DJ that he is today, and the kind of hard work that he put in to get there, and an absolutely bizarre story about Snoop Dogg. Can't wait for you all to hear it. If you can give the page a wee subscribe, and any comments are always appreciated. Thank you as always to Paul at Let Me Repair for the continued support, and also to Dean Fleming at Dean Fleming Mortgage Brokers. Please get in touch with him if you've got any mortgage needs at the moment, and get him on Instagram. Cheers guys.
Al, wasn't it you're here?
I know, mate, I know. We've braved the elements, but we're
Aye,
in about
by the way,
it.
for MD watching, we've braved a monsoon to get into the studio tonight. As I touched on a wee bit before we came on, I would never have thought a DJ would have so many controversial questions fired into me to ask
really?
you tonight.
Mate, I was honestly concerned that there would be no questions.
No.
So people are just like, nah, this guy's
It's
just...
Glasgow, mate. There's nosy bastards
Wow, mate, so
everywhere.
you're going to drag me through the weeds. Trigger me.
Honestly, we'll cover them at the end. We'll always go through the guest ones
no
at the end.
worries.
But DJing, obviously, massive industry, massive everywhere in the world. Was it something that you wanted to do when you were at school, or where did it start?
So, see, throughout this, I'm kind of terrible with dates or
It's fine.
time periods. I'll try and reference something around there that makes it. But before I left the house, I said to my wife, I went, can I ask you to work out a couple of dates? Because she loves like mental arithmetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went, what age was I when my dad turned 50, right?
Right.
And she went 6. She worked out, not that quick. That makes her sound amazing. But, right, so she did the sum. She went, you'd be 6. And I went, that's when I knew I want to be a DJ. And she went, that's impossible. And I was like, no, it is, I know. So that was my first inkling. It's a long story, and I can condense it if you want to hear that, because I think it's bizarre.
Go for it.
So my brothers are older, right?
Right.
A good bit older than me, right? And my brother at the time met this girl, and she already had a son.
Mm-hmm.
So he came up to my house because my dad was having this big bash. He was 50. So it was the first time I was meeting this kid, this English kid. So we used to have a shop across the road. It was like a chip shop, but they sold videos. It's classic. And he goes over and he's like, holy shit, they've got this film.
Right.
It's called Breakdance. I don't know if you know this film. When it was released in America, it was called Breaking.
Right.
Right. He's like, we need to see this. So he's a good few years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
When I say that, he's maybe 9 or something. So he's older, and he's like, you need to see this film. And it was basically like, it's a pretty cheesy movie, but it was the first commercialized movie about breakdancing.
Right.
And long story short, there's a scene where the guys are battling and there's a guy scratching.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember, I remember seeing it and thinking, don't know what this is. 6-year-old kid, I was like, this is cool, right? And I figured I could make the same noise as the guy scratching if I took a felt tip and put it on a bit of paper.
Right.
So I would so when he left and he went back to England, I would just say to my mum, can we go and get a video? And she's like, no, that thing again. And I was like, get breakdance. And I would just watch her sing. And it's so bizarre, me. I'm such a weird kid. And I would literally get a felt, like, I remember you just get a big, like, Crayola felt tips.
Aye.
And I would just zig, like, I would, as if I could make the same noise as the guy. And then from then on, my mum and dad had, like, they would have records because that's what you had at the time. And my dad was like, oh, I'll show you how to put a record on the thing, the hi-fi thing. And he used to teach me, like, oh, you need to be careful. So, like, when I was, like, maybe 7, 8, all that, I would be like, oh, I'll put the records on for when people came round, all that. So that's a wee bit of a classic story for, like, DJs of a certain generation. I was just, like, obsessed with, like, just records, mate, and putting needles on. And then to skip forward away from that, so that would be the first time I was like, this has struck a chord.
Aye.
And then we must be the same age, roughly. Yep. We'll ballpark that. Then through high school, I was buying records, different stuff. And then, like, Happy Hardcore came in high school, and M8 magazine came out. And I got M8 magazine because I just thought that's where you would read about hardcore. And then that's when I seen photos of things like Resurrection and Fubar and, like, all these things that were happening quite close to home. And then seeing these names like Scott Brown and Mark Smith and Hixie and all, and I was just like, this is it, man. This is whatever they're doing. just need to get. And I remember showing my dad like the thing, the turntables, and he was like, "Oh, so you need two?" I was like, "I think so."
Aye.
So he just got me just got me two record players, and I just thought, I mean, that's not the same thing, but I just for a period I was like,
Aye.
I'll play this record, then I'll play this record,
Aye.
and so mate, it was honestly like it's like from such a young age, I was just like, I need to be the guy who has the most music,
Right.
more than all my pals.
Aye.
And then when I first got turntables in high school, I was like, right, I can make my own tapes.
Mhm.
And then I was just that, mate. Like I would do my school discos, not.
Aye.
And that was the first time where I was just like, right, man, I'm like, this is not the status, but I was just
Aye.
like, "Fuck, there's a good couple of hundred people in front of you,
Aye.
and I can do this. I can play this and take them there. I can play a slow one and get everybody winching." Do you know what I mean? It was like,
Aye.
I was like, I'm the captain here. And that's probably that's the thing that gets you hooked.
Aye.
It's like this thing of like, right, I'm controlling this thing. Do you know what I mean? That's so I'd say about when I was about 13 in third year, I was like, that's when I started saying to teachers, I'm going to be a DJ.
Aye.
And they were like, it's not a thing, mate. Kinda.
Aye,
Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Like, or, you could do weddings. I was like, I'll not be doing weddings. I'll be doing resurrection. Do you know what I mean?
Did you, that's what I was going to ask you. Obviously, you think of a DJ and you automatically think of functions, but were you already looking past that and think, no, I want to play in these clubs and then play for these venues?
I think so,
and,
mate. I think so. Don't get me wrong. See, whenever we would go, my family would go to a party. I would, I'd be like, "Can I go and talk to a DJ?" And they see now that I'm that guy. I'm like, "Please don't bring your kids over at any gigs." But they would say, "What are you going to ask him?" And I'll say, "Oh, see," I would say if he's got. I remember being at a function, a family thing, and do you remember that when the Simpsons brought out music? When the Simpsons were a thing, there's a song called "Do the Bartman."
Do the Bartman.
Right.
What a tune.
And I said, "Jinky, who have Do the Bartman?" I think what age I
Aye.
must be. They're like, you can go and ask him, take over this wee like adorable ginger kid. And I said to this guy who had just cases of 45s, he played Do the Bartman. And he said something that I would probably say a version of it. I went, he said, it's not really for this crowd, wee man. But I tell you what, take the record. I thought, holy shit, he's going to give me Do the Bartman. Do you know what he gave me? He gave me a 7-inch record and had the Batman logo on the front. And it was Prince, the song Prince did for the Batman soundtrack.
Right.
So being a nice kid, I went, "Oh, thanks a lot, mate." And I'm just like, this is not Do the Bartman. Let alone, I get it home and I put it on. And that was probably the first time I'd heard Prince as a kid. And I was like, this is fucking unreal. And I was like, I don't even think, like I'm saying, I can't picture what age I must be.
Aye.
But you can kind of think. So from that point on, I was like, who's this guy?
Aye.
My dad's like, "Oh, that's Prince." I was like, where can I get more Prince
From Bart
records?
Simpson to Prince.
Mate, I just graduated. I was like, get me more of this guy's shit. And we go to like our price and try and find like fucking Prince records. But I definitely had seen DJs in the setting of weddings.
Mhm.
But once I was, there probably was there's probably a period where I was, 10, 11, then I got
Mhm.
to school. But once I'd seen that, like, I mean, those events at Inglestown were like,
Aye.
it's insane, mate. And then you could get the videos, you could get these like, kind of cheap looking VHS. Obviously,
Aye.
the guys were probably filming with the best of gear at the
Aye.
time. You just watching, I was like, what is going on here, man?
So you got
What
to
are all
embarrass
these-
him by the tapes.
Mate, same deal, like, you know what I mean? And that's how because eventually I got, like a fully working set of turntables where it
Mhm.
was like, right, I should be able to do what they're doing.
Aye.
I had to deconstruct what I was hearing on the tape
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to mix because there was no DJ school.
Aye.
It was just like literally a kid just going, listening to a tape and going, "Hey, my shit doesn't sound like that, why not?" And just trying to deconstruct it. But mate, that's why I'm terrible at football. I always tell
Mhm.
people that because like I would just get home from school and just play records
Aye.
and try and work out how these guys were doing what they were doing. Just from, like you're saying, just listening
Aye.
to these mix. And the best thing was the mixes were always like recorded live
Aye.
somewhere. So these
Aye.
clubs became like, you're like, oh man, where are these places? Where's Room at the Top? And you find out it's in Bathgate, man. You're like, all right.
Aye. You think it's a different world?
I know, mate.
20 minutes up the
Might
road.
as well have been Ibiza, do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, mate, I want to get Bathgate someday, do you know what I mean?
And when, obviously, you're at school age and you're thinking about it, when did it then start to become a reality for you?
Well, see, so I remember kind of like getting to that end of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, see, I wasn't like, And now in retrospect, it was just lack of application at school.
Right.
Like, I think most people as adults realise that any of us could go back and pass any higher. You just need to read the stuff.
Aye.
And for all intents and purposes, you just need to remember what it is and regurgitate it back.
Aye.
There is a certain understanding of physics and maths, but really, when you think back, you're like, man, I could have went to any uni in the country. I just didn't have, but it's about interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just preoccupied with music and stuff. So I was looking, actually, that I used to go to the unders at Archaeos.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was me seeing firsthand, you know, a guy controlling a room.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like DJs like Cammy and like Billy Reid like playing hardcore. And I was just like, this is incredible. And I remember somebody told me, oh, Cammy goes to college for music.
Right.
And I didn't even know Cammy as a DJ. I just knew him as like this
Aye.
mythical figure. I was like, you can go to college for, I was like, whatever he's doing must be cool because he's cool. So there was a careers day at the Motherwell Civic and they took us over there and they had this thing. They were like, oh, he does it at Stowe College. And I went to the Stowe College thing and I went, do you have, what's this music course? And they gave me this wee card.
Right.
And I remember taking it home and it was like an HND in music and audio technology. I showed it to mum and dad and they were like, is that what you want to do? And I went, aye, and I think I can get in. And they were like, right, just do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I guess that kind of took a back step for the DJing because there was nothing to do. There was it's not like you could get on the circuit as a kid really, unless you were one of these like, I mean, even the boys that were doing unders were probably 17, 18, but I was just like in that weird period of like, can I monetize this? Other than like, occasionally I would get asked to do like a daft party somewhere and they would give me like 50 quid, but it was like, so I was like, right, this would, not as a stopgap, but at that point I was, you know, I was like, oh, I could maybe work in a studio or this could be a career path close to what I'm doing. And I went to Stowe and I loved it, mate. I learned like recording bands. I learned like a lot of kind of production stuff and met some cool people. And then there was an opportunity after Stowe to go straight to Paisley Uni, which is now University of the West of Scotland. And if you did a year there on this course called Commercial Music, they would give you a degree. And I was like, scoosh that, man. Like, no bother. Because I'm like, it's called Commercial Music. So some guy came down from like UWS or Paisley at the time and was like, oh, this is what we'll be doing. I was like, fuck. And he said, mate, people always say that to me. If I go, DJing's a joke, I've got imposter syndrome. And they say, oh, but you've got a degree. I'm like, my degree had no formal examinations. I didn't sit one exam at uni. And there was no day that started before 10 because they wanted it to mimic the music industry.
People frantically Googling this.
Aye, mate, if it's still going, if you want a degree, if you want something hanging your wall, go for it. So I did that, scooshed it a year. So I was like, right, I'll come out and I'll need to graft and try and get a job in a studio making tea. And I was out of uni briefly and I was tinkering with software and I was making mashups, hip hop mashups. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if somebody played this? Sorry if I'm just running through a timeline here.
Not at all.
I was like, wouldn't it be cool if somebody played my mashup in front of a big crowd? So I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll go to a nightclub and I'll find out who the DJ is and I'll ask him if he'll play it. And all he has to do is just let me know if it went good or bad. Right? I don't see at that point. So I was when you 17, 18, 19, 20. This is probably I was about 20 or 21 by the time I was getting my shit together. Like to do something like that. I'd never been in a nightclub other than unders. I didn't go clubbing because it wasn't in my, I don't know. You think a guy I just was obsessed with DJing, but I never went to clubs. It seemed like a big, scary step to go to the
More
town.
about the actual craft than being in the nightclub.
But I knew somebody who was like loosely PRing for a club. And I'll tell a cautionary tale, right? There was one DJ that I could easily identify as being a big deal in Glasgow. I won't name him. Right. And I thought, I can get to him. I knew how I could get physically to him and give him my shit. And I took this CD and it was like In the Club by 50 Cent, but it'd be a different beat.
Right, okay.
So I was like, cool. So I see him going into his work and I run up to him and I'm like, yo, I was like, I've got a CD and it's like mashups. I'd love it if you could just play it and just let me know if it's good or not. And he went, oh, I'm not looking for DJs. And I went, no, I'm not a DJ. I don't want to be a DJ. I just want to, I'm making things and I'd love you to try it out. I said, my number's on it. Just if you can just text me and let me know if it worked or not. And he was like, I've got guys doing stuff like this and all. And I was just like, dude, just take the fucking
Aye.
CD. Just tell me, just lie to me. And I got back in the car and I felt so dejected. I was like, what? What is the incentive
So did
here?
you not even take it off you then?
He did take it, but it was like a struggle. I was just like,
Aye.
just be cool.
Aye.
So I did my next stop. I was actually going out on a night out, and somebody was like, somebody I knew was like, oh, we're going to go to the tunnel. We know somebody at PRs. We're definitely getting in.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, fuck, I'll take a couple of these CDs, man. So I took a couple of CDs, right? And I don't know if you're ever in the old tunnel. Used to have a big cage door at the back.
Aye.
So I did a couple of scoops, man, and I was like, right, I'm going up here. Bang, 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 bang. And this guy comes to the door, but an older guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, all right. And I was like, listen, mate, this is mad, but I've made this CD and it's like mashups. And I don't know if you could play it and see if you like it and just let me know my numbers and the thing. And he went, ah, cool, I'll give it a listen.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back and I'm on a dance floor, I'm having a dance. And I'm like, so I roll back up and I'm like, bang, bang, bang. He's like, all right. And I'm like, did you get a listen? He went, I can't listen to it when I'm working, mate. And I went, oh, I thought maybe you would just take time out of your night, bang it on the headphones and go, this is the greatest shit I've ever heard. Play it right in the middle of your night. So he was like, listen, he's like, I will listen to it and I'll let you know if it's good or not. So I'm like, fuck it, man. It's like, I had a mad night, just like, let's just have a good one. And so we're all getting a taxi back and my phone went. And I'm like, hello. And he's like, oh, it's Martin from the tunnel. I was like, all right. And he was like, listen to your CD, man. He's like, it's banging, man. Come in next week. And I was just like, honestly, mate, I was just like, holy shit, man. I got off the phone and I was like, that was the mad guy for the tunnel. He says we can go in next week and like he'll put us in the guest list and he wants to talk to me. And then that was it, mate. That was the first guy I'd met. It was a guy called Martin Hesketh. And I went in and he was like, look, I like these kind of things and I'm looking to do stuff with artists and maybe you could be the guy to help. And then he went, do you DJ? And I was like, I do, but I can, but I don't, if you know what I mean. I don't really play anywhere. And he was like, but you've got records, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, we're always looking for guys to do like the first hour because nobody wants to do the first hour.
He's just quiet.
I was like, oh, fuck, I'll do that, man. And that was that, mate. He was just kind of like, he's like, we do Wednesdays at Cube, come by and do the first hour. And, you know, I just brought along records. And see, back then when you had records, like, just the fact you had records, somebody was like, you must be serious then.
Aye.
Because it's like, takes time, it takes money, it takes legwork. You know what I mean? You just thumb through your records and go, some good shit here. So you'd like, it was a kind of rite of passage. You just, they knew if you were legit straight away. And then I just kind of DJ'd like those nights and that's how I just met loads of the OGs, do you know what I mean? And that was lit me. It was like, and I always think like from uni, I did have this grand plan of like, right, I'll go into the ground floor of the studio. I'll just like, I'll literally go in and be like, look, I'll scrub the boots and make the tea. And then I just was I had to go back to mum and dad and go, I think this DJ shit's going to kick off again. And they were like, and I explained who I was meeting and they were like, oh, it seems like you've somehow infiltrated this like DJing dynasty, which was like Martin and Chris Hesketh. And they brought me through so quickly. And why I told you that first story, I was like, it's the absolute polar opposite of my first experience. It was a guy who was just like, this guy, it'd be better to have this guy with us than against us. And that's what, you know, and what I would say is Martin was the father, Chris was the son. Me and Chris were roughly the same age. And he was just kind of like, at that point, he was like, this is the guy Chris needs and Chris is the guy he needs. And he kind of put us together. And that's when we just went, we're off. But
the first interaction could have ended it for you if you went, oh, fuck this.
Mate, if I never went to another club, it was honestly so disheartening. But, you know, it's just one of those things where I was like, you know, you've got to persist, man. Do you know what I mean? I was quite confident that what I'd made was it had some value. And I was also just still waiting for somebody, if it didn't, I just wanted them to hear it because I wanted to kind of like improve what I was doing. I just wanted someone to go, it's good, but it could be this, it could be that. And I just thought, why not go and ask the guys that are actually doing the clubs, you know what I mean? But I made two totally different. But I mean, if you never know, the first guy, if he was nice, I could have went down a whole different path. If I plot my whole DJ career back to that point, I'm glad that fork in the road went the way it did, and I met those guys because they were just like my speed. Do you know what I mean? On a interpersonal level, and just like they kind of things that present itself in the really early stages of my
Mhm.
DJ career that made me realise, like, do you know what, I should just go all in
Aye.
on this, you know what I mean?
Surely you still get that first CD somewhere kicking about.
Mate, this is like adorable, man, but like my, obviously back in the day, see the first, see when you get your name in a flyer, physical A5
Aye.
or A6 flyer, mate, I was just like buzzing, man.
Aye.
And they used to use my real name. That's another fucking funky story. I'll tell you that in a minute about the Big Al thing. But no, so my dad used to keep all my flyers, like a
Right.
proper like
Aye.
dad, and I still have this mad folder which is like this time capsule, and he used to keep all my old CDs. And again, I'm so glad he did.
Aye.
'Cause it's not like the digital era where everything, you know, you can just archive, go back through
Mhm.
your SoundCloud and find.
Aye.
Like people always say to me, "Oh, I had a mix of yours like from 2004." I'm like, I still got it, man. If you want, I'll rip it and put it up. They're like, "Oh, mate, we used to listen to that going out," and I'm just like, "Aye, like these are, I get it," because as soon as you put it on, it's maybe like 10, 15, 20
Aye.
tunes on it. It takes you straight back to that
100%.
era,
Aye.
and then you realize it takes me back, and I'm just like, man, remember when these were the hits, man? And you've got to kind of. I'm glad my dad is that kind of like archivist. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But you progress obviously
Aye.
in your
Aye.
ability to make. But
Aye.
in terms of selection, you know, that's the main thing is when you listen to these old CDs and you think like, man, these were the 20 biggest tunes
Aye.
of 2003, and some things that are like you just never hear. They
Aye.
were club records.
Aye.
They weren't radio records. They
Aye.
were like our records for
Mm-hmm.
DJs in clubs. They didn't really go mainstream, but we knew the impact
Aye.
they had. You know what I
But you
mean?
used to, I remember back then when you used to go out, and I think the only reason I never drunk until I was 22.
Mhm.
So when you went out and you heard a song, you're like, fucking hell, where do you get that? And see,
Yeah.
because it was like a mix, you didn't get it anywhere. And you get into HMV and all it, but like, it goes like this,
Yeah,
and then
mate,
this comes in, and the guy's like, ah, fucking mate, I
Mate,
don't, that's
honestly,
the original.
it's such a like, you know, I've got this thing of like not wanting to sound like the old guy,
Aye.
but I don't mind because I'm still here. I'm still doing it. And these times are it was so cool, and it was so romantic. See what you're saying? Imagine you go to a club, right? And you hear something
Mhm.
and you're like, this is the shit.
Aye.
And you can't get in the DJ's ear to say, what is this?
Aye.
You can't Shazam it. You can't even Google the
Aye.
lyrics. You get nothing. So how do you hear it again? You go back to the same
Aye.
club on the same night, hoping
Aye.
you hear the same DJ, and you might go to him, and the best thing you say, can you play that one that goes, da, 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 and the guy's like, and then eventually it clicks,
Aye.
oh, I got you, mate. And you're
Aye.
on that dance floor, and he starts mixed it in.
Aye.
And you're like, telling him, this is the one, I was telling you about.
100%.
Doesn't exist anymore. Kids
Aye.
put me album records. Do you play this? I'm like, what? I'm like, give me 2 seconds. I'm like, when did it come out? They're like, oh, Drake just dropped it 6 hours ago. I'm like, mate, I was having a nap before I came here. I don't have time. Like, it just when it went digital, hundreds of stuff just changed because, you know, it was it's much like what happened with, you know, camera equipment and
Aye.
digital. Just the whole landscape of it as a job changed because the point of entry was it was different, you know.
Aye.
You didn't have to, financial investment wasn't the same, and the curation of a collection of records wasn't the
Mhm.
same. It was like, and a lot of people think it came with the laptops and
Aye.
that, but it came way before when you could play CDs in the club and
Mhm.
then everyone could get a CD and
Aye.
burn whatever songs on it.
Aye.
You're like, you have a CD that has 20 songs on it that you didn't pay for. And I have those same 20 songs, but they take up this much space in my record box and break my back.
Aye.
And they cost me
Aye.
a lot of money because
Aye.
I had to get them imported from America to get
Mhm.
them as early as you were able to
Aye.
find them on Kazaa or
Aye.
fucking Napster or whatever it was.
LimeWire.
I mean, like, do you know what I mean? That's like the only difference is your copies get some American DJs
Aye.
shouting halfway through your song because it's a radio rip. But no, it was just it still does happen sometimes, mate. And when you can still get excited about music, but it's hard to get that, like, you know, like you're saying, going, oh, I heard this thing, no idea what it's called, don't know how to find it. And then like I say, like eventually it'll come out
Aye.
and you're like, oh, dude, he was playing that like
Aye.
6 months ago.
You become that guy. Like,
Do you know what I
fucking
mean?
knew
Like,
about that months ago.
Aye, mate. Do you know what I mean? I knew about the Killers, man. Like, just like dumb shit. Like, where it's
Aye.
like, but that's a real buzz about
Aye.
music, mate. Do you know what I mean? And like, so when even now, if I'm a DJ and I hear some other DJ and they've got some shit and I don't have it, I'm just like, I hate that I don't have it, but I like going,
Aye.
oh, there is still something out there, that
Right.
there's still some guesswork, some detective work to be done, some digital digging,
Aye.
or you just DM him on Instagram, and if he
Aye,
thinks
true.
if he thinks you're a big enough, if he thinks you get enough followers, he maybe sends you it, but if not, he'll just pay you. So I mean, it's a strange transition. It's been a long ride that way.
That's what, so you get into the tunnel, get a wee kind of foot in the door. From there, obviously, you had a feeling that it was starting to kind of move. Somebody had gave you a wee kind of chance to get in there. How did it then kind of snowball from there?
I think just like, so the whole thing, much like all kind of industries, I think when, especially if you're working for yourself and you're in charge of your own, you know, your own brand as a person, like it's kind of like one thing leads to another.
Aye.
It's like you do a thing, whether it's like DJing or whatever, and somebody's like, I heard he can DJ. I went and seen him. He can. I also need a DJ. Get that guy.
Aye.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I kind of think it's similar to, obviously, to, I'll know musicians will probably be like, oh, DJs aren't musicians, but I'll bet, see, like comics, musicians, whatever, it's like, especially stand-ups. See,
Right.
stand-ups, you get stand-ups and someone's like, I saw him doing a show, he's fucking great. I want him at my club.
Right.
It's the same idea. So you just need to get in front of people. And that's where that thing of like doing the first hour for somebody unpaid,
Aye.
the longer, as it goes and it goes, like, you know, a guy shows up another half hour late, you end up working the dance floor a wee bit, half hour, it starts to get busy. I say a manager comes out and goes, oh, the wee man's still on. Like, he's all right. Maybe we could throw him like another night during the week. It's no as high pressure, and you start to build your rep like that. But because I was working with Chris and Martin, they were so far on in the game, and they were like Martin was also getting into like promoting events and promoting concerts. So really quickly, the big heartbreaking story is the first one was Martin said, I'm going to book DMX. This when DMX was like the biggest thing.
Right.
Party Up was like the biggest fucking record. He's like, I got a chance to book DMX. I'm going to book DMX and put him at the bars, and you two can go on before him. I was like, I don't even in the door for maybe less than maybe a year max.
Right.
And he was like, when DMX comes to play, you two will go on before him. And I was like, I can't believe this happened. So we sell out the bars.
Were you nervous? Were you all right?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I'll skip to the end and say it didn't happen. So we sold it out, and we sold it out. Me and Chris took a lot of the promotion on. We put all the kind of usual hang out, and obviously a gig like that sells itself at that point. Huge artist, but me and Chris were like, we got t-shirts printed with the details of the gig on it, and we would go through to Edinburgh with like 12 years, like the Wu-Tang Clans, just squad deep and go to all the hip hop spots and just walk around. Because we were only flying.
Aye.
We just all had the same t-shirt on.
Aye.
And people would be like, is this for real?
Aye.
So we sold this out, maybe whatever the bars is, 1900. On the day of the gig, DMX phones, and it's not happening. It get cancelled. And this I've supposed to open for DMX twice, and both times he cancelled on the day because he's a lunatic. But that's his own thing. But eventually the DMX thing didn't happen, and then Martin came back and he said, I'm going to book Busta Rhymes. You can open for Busta Rhymes. And that one did happen at the Carlin.
I mean, that's a no bad alternative, to be fair.
Insane, mate. Just insane. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I was just like, man, I've backed the right horse here.
Aye.
These guys are like making moves here and putting me in opportunities. So from there, Martin was like, you two need to do this shit. You need to be opening for artists, man. Because he was doing that, and he was also bringing artists to the club, smaller artists. And I would always say to Chris, we should get that whoever the artist is, we should get them to say a wee thing on a fucking mini disc player on a mic, and we'll put that in the mixtape, and it'll be more like the Americans. Like, we'll have drops from artists saying we're the fucking biggest, best thing, and I said then we'll try and get more opening slots, and then I'm trying to think of all the gigs, but we sort of became known as like these guys who are working with American artists. And then the Snoop Dogg thing happened, which is like, so I always say I went viral before going viral was a thing.
Right.
I went viral in an analog era.
Right.
You don't know this story?
No.
This is, I mean, if I tell people, as long as they're Celtic fans, if I tell people one story that resonates with almost any of Glasgow, it's this. So Snoop comes and he's playing a show with the Game at the Carlin. We went opening, we had nothing to do with the gig, but we thought what we'll do is we'll go down to the gig, we'll hang about at the back. We just need to find where they're staying.
Right.
Once we know where they're staying, we'll go and stake out the hotel because we just want to get Snoop to
Aye.
say something for the mixtape.
Right.
So get down there, find out where find they're staying at the Radisson. Cool. Stake out the Radisson. When I say stake out the Radisson, we sat in the lobby from the day, like the morning after the gig. Had breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the lobby of the Radisson. So, take the eye off the prize. And one by one, we infiltrated crew.
Right.
It's easy to spot Snoop's crew, right, when they come down.
Aye.
So Chris, my partner in crime, he has this idea. He says, the new Celtic top is dropping tomorrow.
Right.
So if we go to Celtic shop, they'll sell us the old ones for a tenner. This used to be a thing. He's like, let's spend a couple £100 and we'll buy tops for all the squad. Start like buttering them up.
Right.
So we get there and I was like, right, there's a couple of key members like Snoop's uncle, Uncle Rio, Junebug, like guys that are like really close to Snoop. Get the names in the back of the shirts. Go back to the hotel. They're mulling about. Look, got you a gift. Do you think when Snoop comes down, we can get him to do a wee thing for the mixtape? Yeah, I'll hook it up. Next guy. We're sending people back to the Celtic shop, get more tops. Everybody wants one. But ready to go, we've got the Snoop. The Snoop number 1.
Right.
The hoops jersey. And we just waited the whole day. And like we were getting really pally with like all the crew and all the uncles and all the band and all that. And it was like the end of the day. And they said, Snoop's not leaving till tomorrow morning. Come back first thing in the morning. I promise you'll get it. And I was like, he's going to leave at like 2 in the morning. We're getting happen. So we go back, get a couple hours sleep, and we literally bounce back and maybe about 3-4 in the morning, and we stake it out again. And there's ultimately Snoop comes down. By this point, a few other people have got a sniffy staying there, and there's quite a lot of people there. Snoop comes down out the lift, and he's got a red mink on with a red mink bucket hat. Just looks to shit. 2 security next to him. Everybody in the lobby, even people that are maybe just punters, stand up because like fuck, there's Snoop Dogg. And this guy we've been dealing with, Mike, who was like one of the kind of managers close to him. The security stop everybody, and he just goes these 2 guys, these are the guys, because we'd sent the top upstairs.
Right, okay.
And Snoop's like, yo, he's like, come over, and he's like, what do you need? He's like, thanks for the gift. He's like, what do you need? I was like, oh, we just need a thing for the mixtape. Hold up this wee recorder thing that I'd got, and he just does this drop, man. This like in a total Snoop style, just like an incredible one-liner, like rims it, like what's your name's this and that. Says we're the greatest DJs. And then he's like, thanks a lot for the top boost. And I'm just like, oh, I can't. I'm just listening back to it. Listen back to it. I'm like, holy shit, man. And at that point you're talking like drop it like it's hot, like just like really massive. In the zeitgeist. He always is, but so from that point on, we put that in the mixtapes, and people are like, that's unreal. So just like we always did these type of creative things to try and push our stock up. We would get, as a duo, we would get booked to play in Dundee and Edinburgh, and we were starting to get really busy with that, but we were always pumping out mixtapes and trying to. So then the next hack was we started Snoop was coming back to do a headline show himself at Braehead Arena, and we were like, we need to get on that show. So we start talking to DF Concerts, and we're like something along the lines of, we're those guys. When I say about going viral, by the way, so the day after this happened, the first thing we did is physically went to the Daily Record, the Metro, and the Sun. Right. Because we had the photo with them with the shirt. Aye. So they don't really care about us getting the they don't care about them talking about us. They're like, there's a photo out there of Snoop. You can Google it right now, of Snoop holding a Celtic top up in the photo. Yes. We give it to the Metro, we give it to the Sun, and we give it to the Daily Record, and they all run it. Right. It was like a big story, and obviously like in the Celtic sphere of fandom, it went tonto because they were like, this is legit. Aye. People have photoshopped all this daft shit for years, but this is real. And it was in the papers and all that, to the point where like my dad was like, he'd went into town, I think, because we'd been up for about 3 or 4 days straight chasing down Snoop. My dad went into town in the morning, and he phoned me, it's on the front of the paper. It's on the front of the Metro. I was like, holy shit, man. And then the Daily Record was like a big spread in the Raz or whatever Bev's column was at the time. And it was just like, it was a real viral thing, because people, like, if they didn't know us for anything else, they were like, oh, you're
Aye.
those two guys. And I often think in this era how much easier it would have been to get. We would have been on like, do you know what I mean? Like talk shows and shit like
Every
that.
fucking platform.
Do you know what I mean? Like people would have
Aye.
been like, because it was such a thing, and it ended up being in, as the years went on, it ended up appearing in like Maxim and all these other
Mhm.
magazines where it'd be like, oh, famous US celebrities that supposedly support
Aye.
UK clubs.
Aye.
And there's only a few of them that actually at that point that had the people like, oh, everyone says George Clooney's a fucking whatever
Aye.
Man U fan or something.
Aye.
There was nothing to really
Aye,
cement
prove
it.
Aye.
Because the thing that cemented the snooping was that, you know, we had the photo and it went in the papers, and the next day he was in London. He went to Manchester to do a show, I think, and then London after that, yeah. And he was on Radio 1 with Joe Wiley,
Mhm.
and he was photographed leaving Radio 1, and he had the same red mink coat that I'm talking
Right.
about, red mink bucket hat, and the hoops on under it, right? And on the show, Joe Wiley goes, "Are you wearing a Celtic top?" And he goes, "Yeah. Some of my friends in Glasgow gave it to me." And I was just like, "This is real. This is happening." Do you know what I mean? It was just bizarre. So we were like, we thought we'll hit DF concerts and say, essentially, we're pal. Snoop loves
Aye.
us. We're
Best
the
mates.
guys. We should open this thing at Braehead. And like we were trying to name drop everybody we knew
Mhm.
at Snoop's side, to the point, and DF were like kind of saying, I think they were almost like, if you can get somebody to confirm this
Right.
from his end. So we were like literally on the Google machine like, well, who's his agent? It's like, we'll just phone William Morris in LA and ask to speak to Snoop's agent. So we're just waffling down the phone in this accent saying, all you need to do is ping an email to this mob and just co-sign it. And I don't know the ins and outs of what happened. All I know is about 24 hours before the Snoop gig at Bayhead,
Mhm.
Dave Corbett from DF phoned, he went, "You're on for Snoop tomorrow." And I was just like, holy shit, man. I was like, this is it, man. This is the biggest thing. I'm telling my dad, man, I'm like, I'm doing fucking Bayhead
Aye.
Arena tomorrow for Snoop Dogg. And my dad's like, where the ice rink is? And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. And it was like,
Did you get nerves? But see with something like that, be such a big, because at that point,
Yeah,
obviously Snoop
maybe.
Dogg was fucking
yeah, mate.
global. How were you feeling like before it?
See, to be honest, it's hard to put myself back there, but I don't know if I did. Mate, I was so, I don't know if, not cocky, but
Aye.
I was so confident
Be
of
sure
like,
yourself.
I was just like, well, who else are you going to put up here?
Aye.
Like, I was just like,
Aye.
I'm man, if made this happen, like,
Aye.
I'm just going to fucking kick this out the park. Like,
Mhm.
and we were playing records, man, in front of like that. When I look back, it was like a suicide mission.
Aye.
And the craziest thing was, in true Snoop fashion, so they had like us in a kind of riser thing out the front, and then this big massive like curtain thing. You could see like a scrim, you could see behind like
Mhm.
the artwork for Snoop and all the band and all that bit. And every now and then a guy would just pop his head out from the curtain and go, he's doing a half hour, like an American guy,
Aye.
part of Snoop's crew. And I'm like, I'm playing a finite amount of music here. I'm playing physical records. We end up playing for 2 hours, mate.
Jeez.
Which is like, it's tough, man, because if you go to see a gig, we're all a bit older, you got to see a cool support act. See, when you're a wee guy and you want to go see Snoop Dogg,
Aye.
you don't want to see two Bams to Glasgow
Aye.
just playing records. But we got it done, and just digging deep in the crates. And like, I remember us getting off, and I was just like, I can't believe we just did that. And the guy from Snoop's crew just came over with a bottle of champagne. And he just went, take that, enjoy it. When you dug us at a hole tonight. And I was just like, that's unreal, man. And we're just back at Braehead, popping champagne, walking up, sitting in the stand, watching Snoop for like 2 seconds aside the stage. And I was just like, I was like this, I could just quit DJing now, man. I could just, if that was that, if somebody
Aye,
was
that's
like,
the peak.
by the way, next, it's all done for here, man. Like you need to go back and just do something else. Like, so these were like, I just had tastes of these experiences,
Aye.
mate, from like quite an early stage. But you know that thing, like when they say preparation, luck is it's preparation meets
Mhm.
opportunity. It's like you're saying, like you can either get that opportunity and bottle it, or you
Right.
can just go, right, I need to just do this, man.
Aye.
And as long as you keep doing that, like, you know, just be prepared. Like
Mhm.
if somebody used to phone me at the drop of a hat and
Aye.
say, you know, can you come do this mad gig? If it's a really good opportunity and you're not prepared, you're going to kick yourself.
Aye.
So that's like, you know, you just need to be ready for anything. And that's like, that comes from you know, just knowing your music and just earning your stripes, mate, doing those
Right.
first hours for guys and watching guys that are better than you and picking up. And then when something comes along, it's big. And also capitalizing on it from a marketing standpoint.
Mhm.
Like, see, from there, it was like,
Right.
well, we're the guys done Snoop.
Aye, you've
So we
got a
should be the
buy-in
guys
right
who do
away.
this one. We should be, it was
Aye.
like, and the other thing that happened around that time was my dad's like a mad photographer. So he was
Mhm.
always like, take pictures, take videos.
Mhm.
And I had like a little camcorder thing. And I would always be like, you need to film this. Because
Right.
like, I was just, if no one ever watches it, I want to just
Aye.
like have it. And I was doing the very early stages of like iMovie and shit like that. And it would
Mhm.
be like, we put these videos out that in retrospect just look terrible. But see,
Right.
the point, there was nothing to compare them to.
Aye.
You know, and people are just like, you could put it on YouTube, which was, I put my first video on YouTube in 2003. It's like, that's it.
Mhm.
There was nothing on it.
Aye.
It was like a hosting
Aye.
site, and you could use that and link it for your MySpace. And see, when people were seeing like this tangible thing of like, anyone can say, I played a gig last night, killed it.
Mhm.
How do I know if either I
Aye.
wasn't there?
Aye.
That's the thing about DJing versus music and production. We need to do it every night
Aye.
because it goes away.
Aye.
It's just an experience.
Mhm.
So, you know, people can say, oh, like that record's timeless. It's been around forever. It makes money forever. It's like
Aye.
everyone agrees it's amazing. But, you know, you can have a great gig, but the thing is, you need to have another one the next night.
Aye, because you've got, I suppose people will go away and say, oh, you need to come back and see this guy. And you're starting from
and
scratch again.
You know, and it's like there's not, so to create certain things that are tangible, like if I say to you now, oh, that gig with Snoop was ridiculous, you're
Mhm.
like, I could pull videos up and be like, you're like, holy, he's no lying.
Aye.
And I always thought that was important because in an industry like DJing, where, to be honest, the opportunity to bullshit and
Mhm.
sell your product on just gassing yourself up,
Mhm.
I just always wanted to be like, do you want to see it? I was like,
Aye.
and I became obsessed with like filming what we were doing,
Right.
whether anything that seemed like a cool experience or something that would get us to the next level. Because if we go in and we want the next thing, we have to show them the last thing,
Right.
or else it's just talk.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's what people like buy into.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And like I'm saying about, it's transient when you do a gig, like at a club, you just do a gig and you leave, and you know, 90%, if not higher, of people are like, that was fucking great. What a
Aye.
great night.
Aye.
It's not like they come up and say thanks. Like,
Aye.
they just expect it. They go to a nightclub and it should be good music and I should have
Mhm.
had the best night of my life. Then I just leave. It's like, it's not like every time I do a gig, I get like, you know, 200 followers from a
Aye.
club going, mate, that changed my life.
Aye.
They just expect it as a component of a
Mhm.
night. So I just always thought like branding was important, and like I'm saying, just having, the only thing that we could really have as tangible products, we weren't making music, was just like putting out these videos of what we were doing and the kind of scale we were doing it on. And that's what pushed us on. And we ended up doing a bunch of that became our like calling card. We supported like Lloyd Banks and
Some
Chamillionaire.
big
and
hitters.
at the time they were huge. We opened for Nelly Furtado at the Armadillo, which was a kind of left field for us because she was like a pop artist, but she was
Mhm.
huge at the time, and she was in the sort of hip hop kind of.
And making a Timberland and
That
stuff
was
like
that era.
didn't
So
she?
like it was the Promiscuous
Aye.
tour, and that was the point. At that point, I would say Chris was kind of getting out of it a wee bit, and
Mhm.
but I thought this is who we should be opening for because her audience is even bigger
Aye.
because she's a pop artist.
Mhm.
And then that's when I said, I need to play different stuff now.
Aye.
I want to be known like I can play any style kind of thing,
Mhm.
but still like a hip hop DJ. But
Aye.
just, and because her crowd was like, so when we opened for her, we were playing like, you know, I Love Rock and Roll and Guns N' Roses and Jacksons and all that. And because the
Aye.
clientele and people were just like, oh, that's brilliant. And I was like, oh man, I mean, you want to open the market up again, because you
Mhm.
say to some people, maybe Snoop Dogg's a bad example. You say to someone, oh, I opened for Lloyd Banks at G Unit, they're like, don't know who that is, mate.
Aye.
But at that time, if you're like, oh, Nelly Furtado's had a number one
Aye.
record for like 10 weeks or
Aye.
something, it was
Aye,
like,
huge.
that's when I decided like not to leave the hip hop behind, but I was like, I'm just gonna like diversify and play different kind of styles. And
Mhm.
that was like, it's probably the right thing at the time because hip hop
Aye.
took a wee bit of like nosedive.
Aye.
came out of the main rooms. So I've been lucky in those transitions I've made.
Aye. Have you ever had, obviously you've talked about like Snoop and like Nelly Furtado, and have you ever had any really kind of gigs where you're like, Jesus Christ, man, and just had a shocker?
Played bad.
Aye.
I mean, I'm pretty self-critical. Like, you know, it's probably not possible that anyone could think I was worse than I thought I was in a
Yeah.
certain night.
Yeah.
I've done club gigs. I've never choked at like a big one, really. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say. You kind of just like, you just kind of rise. You just have to be,
Yeah.
just kind of have to posture up and like
Aye.
be, because if not, you get eaten alive, man.
Aye.
Especially at hip hop gigs, like you come out, like
Tough
I'm saying,
crowd.
you're like standing between them and the main act, and
Aye.
it's Glasgow, man. You just go out and it's like, can be a predominantly male crowd sometimes.
Aye.
It's just a bunch of guys standing with their arms folded,
No
going,
hiding place.
and they're just going, do something then, do something. And then that's when you need to be like, grab the mic and just take control and be like, well, what if between now and you seeing Snoop, I just rip like, you know, 50 DMX. They're like, oh, this is better than standing about with the
Aye.
music quiet. Like,
Right.
so you just, and you know, you win them over. But in terms of club gigs, I mean, it'd be terrifying the amount of club gigs I've done since I
Aye.
started this. It's like, when you think about getting a gig, it seems like a big thing. And I
Mhm.
still am grateful for all my gigs,
Mhm.
but it's very much like a job after a while.
Yeah.
Like there's probably only been a few periods in my life out with the pandemic where I've gigged any less than 4 times a week since I was 22. It's a lot of times to head out.
Traveling and things as well.
And
innit?
there is
It's-
nights where I go, man, fuck, if I was managing this club, I wouldn't
Aye.
bring me back.
Aye.
But see, the thing is, I'm holding myself to a much higher standard than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with drunk people. If people go, the worst thing that could happen in a club gig, or any gig really, but specifically a club gig where it's kind of like that business element,
Mhm.
is someone comes out, management comes out at like 2 a.m. and goes like that, where is everybody?
Aye.
That's an hour of,
Aye.
that's an hour of spend.
Aye.
That's when guys get sacked, man. That's when
Aye.
guys get bumped. And what you just need to not be that guy. You just need to pivot,
Aye.
work a crowd, don't be pretentious or like selfish in your selection. Like, everybody's got a position there,
Mhm.
from the cloakroom, bar staff, management. So you're left with quite a, you know, that's where certain anxiety comes in
Aye.
terms of like, if you like saying, if you body it, man, and it's like 1/2 and you've lost, you know, 50,
Aye.
60% of the crowd, like, that's no good for anybody,
Aye.
man. So you can get bumped like
Aye.
real quick. And I would be the same because, and I like to go back to the comedy, like parallel, comedians are judged less than every 30 seconds, almost in a gig. Tell a joke. Is it funny or not? It's
Right.
funny. Keep going. It's funny. Keep going. Oh, that was bad. That was
Aye.
right. Get them off. So it's kind of the same. Probably not. I'd get more respect for comedians because you don't have anyone else's material.
Aye.
You know what I'm saying?
Aye.
But you even think that like people are even a wee bit more forgiving at bands. People go and say, "Oh, it's all right. It wasn't for me."
Aye.
But
Aye.
people get lively at comedy clubs and they're like, "Get them off."
Savage crowd, innit?
It really is. People just, and it can be like that in a nightclub.
Mhm.
People can be rude and be quick and be like,
Aye.
"What's this?" You know what I mean?
Throw booze into the mix as well. and
I
it's-
just like it's people are real brave, and
Aye.
you know it can kind of like it can knock you a wee bit. And
Aye.
you're like, "Oh man, I'm doing terrible tonight."
Aye.
But experience kicks in, and you're like, "Right, you know how to steady the ship."
Mhm.
But there is that element of like, especially now. Me and you probably come from an era where you weren't really in the club with your phone.
No.
You compete against
No.
the phone in the pocket.
Aye.
If you're not doing something interesting and engaging a crowd now,
Aye.
they can always just get the phone out
Aye.
and there's something on it, whether it's taking a picture of their pals, taking a story, thumbing through Instagram, whatever,
Mhm.
something to keep them entertained there.
Aye.
So you need to like feed that. You need to like keep them there with you. And it's
Aye.
much harder than it used to be.
Aye.
You used to put a record on and let it rock, man. And
Mhm.
people were just like, oh, listen to Montel Jordan for fucking 3 minutes. Now it's like, if you see them wavering and you see the phones coming out, it's like you need to do something, switch it and get the next record on and re-up and re-engage. So it's that's tough like that, man.
So I'd say to you, I get so many questions in.
I can't believe anyone.
Honestly, mate, I have the nosiest followers on Instagram.
I think
See,
it's
anytime you put a new
I
job
could
up,
see
they're
that,
like,
man. Yeah,
"Fucking ask them this, ask
that's
them
like
this."
I guess that's the purpose, though, mate. Because it's like
Definitely.
they've got free rein, man, to just kind of.
Probably the one that got fired in about 600 times. What's the most hated song for you that you always get asked for? And you're like, come on.
See, see if someone went, "What's your favorite song of all time?"
Mm-hmm.
It's almost that impossible question, right?
Aye.
If somebody goes like that to me, what's a song that always starts a party?
Uh-huh.
I always just say Jackson 5, Want You Back, because it's just like, it does,
Classic.
but see when it comes, I would say there's records I don't like,
Aye.
you know, but I think the worst thing is when a song is huge
Mm-hmm.
and people ask for it, like, and I get it, but it's it's like, it makes you start to hate it.
Aye.
It'll come back.
Aye.
So I love Ewan McVicker, but everybody's like, can you play Tell Me Something Good? Can you play
Aye.
It's like, obviously we're going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I would be making my job hard if I didn't.
Aye.
And every moment you come over and either talk to me or flash your phone, it's just time out of my concentration here
Aye.
to say to you, I'll put it on at like,
Aye.
it'll be on at like 1 o'clock or like what, like, so it's more like sometimes songs get so big in the current moment
Aye.
that you just kind of go, I could just go a night without playing that. I
Aye.
would love, because it's just becomes so obvious, and it becomes I would rather the high point of my night was Unpredictable
Aye.
rather than saying, well, that's the one that's going to go off more than anything.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Because then it's like, it just becomes dead kind of tedious. You're just building up to going, right, well, when you get to say 2 o'clock, they can have the,
Aye.
I'll give them their dinner. Do you know what I mean?
Have you ever-
Here's your dinner.
See, like, have you ever had songs that are massive and you know they're massive, but you've just never took to them? I thought you're just
I
I'm
probably
not
loads
feeling
of
it.
stuff. There's things that I know definitely work right.
Mm-hmm.
There are huge songs
Aye.
that I wouldn't say I'm being like, I don't feel like it's my style,
Aye.
or they're really obvious. Like, and this, people kill me for this, right? But I don't see playing bits and pieces like it'll work every time,
Aye.
but I never play it.
Aye.
I'll play it if it's a private event and
Mhm.
somebody with clout is saying,
Aye.
this
Can you
is
put
my
that?
event,
Aye.
we want it on.
Aye.
But it's never been part of my repertoire because I just feel like it's so far removed for the clubs. It's literally like wedding music.
Aye.
So in a normal club setting, my normal club set, I would,
Mhm.
I just like stuff like that. And those kind of records, like God Love George. But when people say, can you play GBX? I'm like, that's neither a song nor a style of music. So it's like, I'm like, and they don't really make new
Aye.
things.
It's just the
It's
same
like,
stuff every week.
you know, and I'm like, I was there when it first came around, and it's like we're past that. So nah, I'd say like Bits and Pieces and You're a Superstar and all these things. I'm just like, because you know, it's a small portion of my audience. They're kids, they're young
Aye.
men. They want
Aye.
kids are like, they want new shit, and they also
Aye.
don't want to hear. They want nights. If I'm doing a club every week, I need to push it. I need to progress it. I need to bring
Aye.
in new records. Like just shit in the bed and going, there's Bits and Pieces.
Aye. Aye.
There's like losing your way and saying, see, I'd say Mr. Brightside is the Bits and Pieces of indie music. It'll always
Aye.
work. But to me, I'm just like, it doesn't really have the same rep as Bits and Pieces.
Like a karaoke song now, isn't it?
It kind of is. But still, I kind of, not that Bits and Pieces isn't a great record. It's just had it's a Scottish thing though as well. It's had such a ride in this country that
Aye.
it's beyond
Aye.
played out.
Mm.
So I would say stuff like that. I just, no matter, like if unless the owner it's actually said to me,
Aye.
you need to play
Aye, put
that.
that on.
It wouldn't matter who else asked for it,
Aye.
unless they tip me like, you know, £500 or something. I would just be like, sitting defensible, I need to play it. So but other than that, no Bits and Pieces.
What about this is just for my curiosity when you're talking about R&B and that at the start. What's your kind of go-tos if you were thrown back to that kind of
That era,
era?
2000s and stuff. I mean, loads. See, for me, so much of that stuff still bangs, still
Aye.
resonates. You know, Crazy in Love, Fat Man Scoop, Be
Aye.
Faithful. Actually, tons of those records. Usher, yeah. All the Sean Paul.
I think they've all kind of stood the test.
I think so, mate. I don't.
Time-wise.
Sometimes, and obviously with like TikTok and things,
Mhm.
certain records just come back in,
Aye.
and kids are going, "Oh, can you play this?" And I'm like, you just know that from TikTok.
Aye.
But I don't care. It's an excuse to rip a classic.
Definitely.
And you know, I was not around when it was like the Rolling Stones, but I still
Aye.
know most of the catalogue and I love it.
Aye.
So it's good for kids to get introduced to things,
Aye.
and you know, it's not just like whatever came out yesterday is the hottest shit. It's like they
Mhm.
go, "Oh, I heard this like Timbaland, The Way I Are, had this resurgence on TikTok. And
Aye.
kids are like, do you know what this is? I'm just like, aye, man. I was playing it when nobody liked it, like back in the day. Do you know what I mean? So, nah, I think that's cool when selling records they just transcend, man.
Aye,
Do you know what I mean? They don't bother
Definitely. Controversial one, and I'd forewarned you before we started.
I don't know how is it exactly worded.
A lot of people said, ask him what his thoughts are on traditional DJs with turntables, etc., to somebody rocking up with a laptop.
Okay, so I played records. I used turntables. Now I'll use a laptop to contain my music, but I still use turntables to control it.
Aye.
So, and some nights I'll play using CDJs or whatever. And then obviously the newest evolution of tech is a controller, which is like a self-contained unit. Gives you the same functionality essentially. The thing is, what I would say, if I talk to a young kid, and I never had this advice, I didn't know anybody. Kids say to me, what controller should I buy? I say the cheapest one.
Aye.
See if you're obsessed with it after 6 months of getting it,
Aye.
get a better one.
Aye.
Don't ask your mum and dad to buy you like a $3,000 setup. Stupid. You'll sell it. That's not what it is. Like, get the cheapest one. If you cannot walk past it in your bedroom without jumping on it and doing a remix, then you know you want to do this.
Aye.
So it's worth investing more money. And you'll learn the same basic principles. I play in turntables because for me it's the most fun way to do it. It's tactile. The thing moves.
Aye.
It pushes and pulls with you. It's what I learned on. It's what I'm the most effective on. But it's all, I see guys that are on CDJs that are unreal. You know what I mean? I see guys that do things with controllers where I'm just like, I don't even know how they're doing that.
Aye.
I've been doing this forever.
Aye.
But they've somehow worked out some sort of trickery with how controllers work versus traditional gear. I'm like, I don't even know how that kid's doing that. So that's amazing.
Aye.
The main thing it comes down to is selection trumps anything. Most technical DJ in the world will get, his pants pulled down if the guy who goes on after him knows what tunes to play and when to play them. If you can't work that out, it goes back to what I was saying about emptying the club at 1 a.m. If you can't work out what records to play and when to play them, you will not do this professionally.
Aye.
You just won't. So, like I'm saying, a guy could come in and say, "Oh, by the way, I've got turntables and I do scratching. I'm this guy and I'm old school." If the kid that shows up is playing the right records for that audience and he's playing on this tiny little controller that cost them £200, they'll get him back, man.
Aye.
So I don't really have a problem. There's no point in having any kind of snobbery around it because nobody's watching a black and white telly.
Aye.
Tech moves on and that's it. It's never going back. So you need to, I can jump on a controller and play. Is it my preferred tech to play on? Nah. Is CDJs? Nah. I love playing on turntables.
Aye.
Because I feel like I can, like I said, I feel like I'm the most effective version of myself. I can be like, if somebody sees me on turntables, they're just like, I feel like that's the most likely point where they'll be like, oh, nah, I see why he does what he does. Like CDJs, I play on them so much, I'd say I'm decent. Controllers, I can work out. The only thing that's strange, and this kind of goes to the black and white telly thing, is if a kid came in and they said, it's just this mixer and these turntables, he would have to say, oh, I can't play. They're not well versed in the gear. But like I'm saying, things are only moving forward. So that's a very rare circumstance. But, I mean, I think everyone should try and play, going turntables because there's still guys that are at the forefront of DJing that use turntables and are doing really like good creative shit. And I think the youth should watch that and be like, I'd maybe like to get a go at that one time, you know what I mean? So, I don't really have it's futile, mate, to have a problem with it. I just want people to come in with the right attitude to the selection in the music. See if people are like, and just be keen and be like, I don't know, just be rabid for new music and wanting to learn about music because that's what ultimately will set guys that will have a good long run in it. It's nice. Everybody's kind of been at somebody's house and be like, oh, you get DJ shit. Let me get a shot of that.
You're always drawn to it.
Let me get a wee shot. But some people just like, it's more like they're like, oh man, I just want to do this. And want to find new music every day.
Mhm.
And the other thing is like, they're like, I want to find new music. I want to let people hear it. I want to put it out to people.
Aye.
Once you get that kind of bug, I mean, doesn't really matter. Like this, I mean, all the house guys that were synonymous with playing turntables, you'd be hard pushed to find
Right.
any one of them that's
Aye.
not embraced new technology.
Right.
Carl Cox not. Carl Cox loves it, man. 4C DJs and every toy imaginable because it pushes forward his creativity. So nah, I mean, I don't know where it's going next, but well, just a Spotify fucking iPhone in the, iPhone in the corner, mate.
Aye, no doubt. I really, do you know what when somebody sends you a question, you're like, I wish I had a fucking thought of that. Somebody had asked if you were to go back and play in any kind of era or peak genre for any kind of type of music, what would it be?
I mean, like, I would have loved to have a swing at playing hardcore clubs because I was obsessed with that music.
Aye.
It was my first entry. I was just too young to be part of it.
Aye.
But a lot of those guys never, there was nothing really after it. They
Aye.
either kept playing hardcore and they were at the forefront, like Scott Brown, that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys that were huge names didn't transition well into mainstream.
Aye.
I don't know why. You just get, it was such an association with certain names in hardcore. So it was kind of not a bullet dodged, but I would have loved to have done it because I loved the music and I'd love to have presented to a crowd. And I felt like, even when I was young, I was like, I could do this.
Aye.
I could play, Archaeos or whatever. Like,
Aye.
but I never really got that swing. But other than that, if you're talking about, like, I love like 80s stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See when I hear some 80s tracks and I'm like, wow, man, what would this have been like in a nightclub, man? You're like, do you know what I mean? Like, see when you watch like old 80s movies and you just think like, see some of these jams, man.
Aye.
Imagine hearing them, like, people dressed up with all the pure gear on, and you're just like, not like seeing people go to like a mad throwback 80s club.
Aye.
Imagine being in the thicket though and you're hearing like fucking like Steve Winwood, Higher Love, and people. I'd be like, imagine being that guy. Do you know what I mean? It's such a weird era of music as well. There was so much different stuff going on, whereas like in a disco era, everyone was like disco-y.
Aye.
The 80s, people they were all over the place, man. Do you know what I mean?
Carnage.
And I'm just like, I can only imagine some of the scenes that happened in the 80s. That I'm talking, see, when I say that, I'm thinking about maybe I'm playing like Miami in the 80s. I'm not talking about playing like,
Scarface.
I'm not talking about playing like, I'm in Glasgow in the 80s like, nightclubs. Because I can only imagine, man. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it was, I think it was murky. I think it was murky back then. But yeah, probably like some 80s, just doing a night, just like mad 80s shit, man. That'd be good.
What about kind of dream venues that you've no played that you would love to?
Yeah, I mean, like, I played the Armadillo. I never did anything SEC.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done something at the Hydro. It'd be something to tick off
Aye.
in this city, but mate, it's such a weird thing. Like, you're just like I just think I'm up your gun for hire.
Right.
Like, I like doing different things, but I've just done like the weirdest things. Like, I always thought like, I like traveling as well. Like, so anytime I've been traveling, like anytime somebody's like, "Do you want to come all the way out here just to play records?"
Right.
It's mental. It's so stupid, man. Like, in a way, but it's like it's the craziest thing. That's all they want you to do when you get there, and they'll give you money. It's like, but I don't know. I don't mean nothing's ever enough, but it's like I always thought if I could play in Vegas one time, I could like just be like retire.
Aye.
And then I played in Vegas, and then I was like, oh, it'd be good to play in Vegas again. Like, it just wasn't enough.
Aye.
Like, there's no milestone. So, and you can go somewhere that's meant to be, it's going to be like a great gig, and it just falls short.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just go to your Saturday night, man, and just something's in the air, man, and you just rip it, and you're like, you just think, well, doesn't it get any better than that?
Aye.
Does it get better? Like, just, a couple hundred people, like 20 minutes from your house, and at the end of the night, lights are up, everyone's singing, and you're just like, that's what I'm saying, gun for hire. It's like, they just put them in front of me, man, and I'll just see what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, everybody would love to do the fucking, like, the pure AOK type festival shit, man, but I just, I feel like if things come along and you just kind of, like I'm saying, I don't mind playing. I do so many weird different things, from clubs to events to like corporate things. Like, it's all just a puzzle to be solved, mate. Do you know what I mean? I think, put it this way, these guys that every time they go and DJ, it's like that AOK shit.
Mm-hmm.
Some nights he's bored of that.
Aye.
That's facts. Like some
Right.
nights he's like, or some nights he's going, oh, do you know what I'd love to do? Like a wee 400 cap, sweatbox in Glasgow, man,
Aye.
just be right up closer to
Aye.
people. So it's like, it's all about variety in your
Mhm.
stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it's that's why. And every time somebody picks up the phone, it's like, do you want to come do this thing?
Aye.
I'm like, play records for money. You can't get over it.
Aye, sign me up.
Just a pure hack, man. It's
Aye.
like imposter syndrome. That's what it's like. It's just the most ridiculous.
Even this long into it now.
Me, I get it. I still get it all the time. I feel like I'm a kid. Like it's so dumb. I get imposter syndrome all the time. I feel weird taking people's money because it's like, not that it's easy and the experience is what makes you worth paying the money because
Mhm.
somebody's like, oh, they'll keep my crowd here, they'll keep my tills ringing.
Aye.
But realistically, it's like, that's why, I didn't know if you're going to say to me as a renting about a job that's like bad or that, but there is obviously late nights can be tough and
Mhm.
there's different aspects to it. Like I say, imposter syndrome or certain performance anxiety, like getting stressed about stuff. But see, realistically, man, it's like, if you catch people moaning about this job too much,
Aye.
it's like, you need a slap, man. Like, see, when, like, my dad's like just, he worked in Rolls Royce, like, just a typical guy, worked his way up, just a grafter.
Mhm.
Before that, my dad, like, worked in the M1, like, he's done all these mad jobs, you're digging ditches and
Aye.
fucking
Graft.
crazy stuff. And then he's like, first time you bring home a check for playing records, he's like, just keep doing
Aye.
that, man. If you can get someone to pay you for,
Aye.
you don't get dirty, like you just can't moan about it. It's just the imposter syndrome is like, it feels ridiculous, especially because you don't write the tunes, man.
Aye.
You just-
Aye. You're just
And
playing them. Aye.
not that criticism. It's like it is other people's music, so there's only and for that reason, there's only so much. Like you need to check any ego you develop.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? 'Cause
Aye.
it's just like, it's just fucking, you just rock in, play other people's music, pick the right records, people dance. You can't, you can't, I don't want to say any crude stuff, but you can't like get a big head or
Aye.
feel yourself too much.
Aye.
It's ridiculous, man. That's when you see some of these big DJs, man, like
Aye.
stand up there like, Jesus, man, you're like that guy,
Yourself.
you're like, it's easier to play for 50,000 people than it
Mhm.
is to play for 50 people.
Aye.
They all know that,
Aye.
especially if they came to see you.
The thing is as well, if you've got 50 people, you hear everything.
Exactly, mate. And they look right. Look, see the whites of their eyes, man.
Aye.
They're
And if
like-
it's in
they're
Glasgow
they're
as
just
well,
going,
it's
"Bits-
fucking...
what's happening with the bits and pieces, mate?
Aye.
What's happening? Like, come on. It's tough, mate. That's a true test where it's like, I've done gigs where it's like so many people, I can't even see anybody. Like, I can't really make anybody out. It's like, you just go on autopilot and,
Aye.
and every time you play a record, you just hear, it's
Aye.
like, it's no bother, man. You know what I mean? But the ones where you're really in the trenches, man,
Aye.
that's when you've if you can really hold your nerve and like, it's a different ballgame. But so Aoki should come and play club, man. See what he's really got.
And what about guys at the kind of age you were at when they come out of school and that, and it is a passion that they've got and it is something they want to get into? What would you say to them advice wise for kind of trying to
To
get
be a DJ?
themselves established and
Just, I mean, like, first of all, it's dead easy to get some gear and get
Mhm.
started. Get it, try things, experiment. I mean, I was doing it with no manual, as in like no YouTube tutorials,
Aye.
nothing. Just figure it out. And then this is like old school advice, but I think it still works. Like, say you want to play at Sanctuary, start going to Sanctuary.
aye.
Just go and introduce
Aye.
yourself to the DJs. Don't be over the top. Just say, I'm a DJ, man. Here's a SoundCloud. Do you want to listen to my shit?
Mm-hmm.
You want a drink? In. Just
Aye.
make roads in, because in any other industry, especially something like this where it's the nature of it's quite social, people are going to work with people they like,
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it. So just come in and try and also I've had people message me on Instagram and say, like, they'll follow me and then I'll
Mhm.
get a DM straight away and I'll be like, how would I go about getting a gig in Sanctuary? And I'll be
Mhm.
like, I'm just like, and I maybe go, do you like, I don't even want to ask it. So I should
Aye.
go, do you go to the club?
Aye.
Because if you do, it'd be much better to just come and say hi.
Aye.
And two, it's just like, it's almost just, you've just picked a bunch of like spots and went, let me see how you get in there or who the guy is.
Aye.
Whereas I'm just like, if you'd come in and I'd seen you in
Mm-hmm.
for weeks and weeks and weeks and
Aye.
weeks, at least you know what I do.
Aye.
So then it's like you've seen the blueprint to an extent, but people kind of treat it maybe like another job in the sense of like, and see with creative industries, a lot of it's like just bang doors,
Mm-hmm.
but bang the door and then go through it and
Aye.
meet the guy on the other side
Aye.
and just shoot the shit, because I'm like, you know, I'm quite happy to like give people the cheat codes, man.
Aye.
I don't care. Like
Aye.
I'm saying, the very first guy I ever approached just was like,
Aye.
go. And it's always stuck with me. I'm just like, if he asks me a question, I'll tell you the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like whether or not that's something you want to act
Aye.
on, or if that's a like if the graft involved with that something you want to do. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really. What do you get out of being like nasty to the next
Aye.
generation? Because
Aye.
they are the next generation. I'm not going to do this when
Aye.
I'm like, I'll probably do it when I'm 50, man, because I'm out of options. But like, you know what I mean? This
Aye.
got to come through, and
Aye.
I want Glasgow, and you know, especially as a market, to, you know, always have a thriving
Aye.
music and club scene. So
You can always learn from other people as well. It's
mate, I still love like watching DJs, like guys like in America and stuff, and
Mhm.
I'm always just watching what they're doing, especially during the lockdown. Loads of guys were doing streams. Like, it's a good chance to see guys that I look up to and guys that I like. And I mean, I'm there's guys obviously like Jazzy Jeff's in his 50s, like, but I'm quite old in the game for
Right.
this. But there's still guys I like look up to and say
Right.
like, I want to see them like get on Twitch and do 2 hours and
Mhm.
just like listen to what they're playing and be like, fuck man, I never
Right.
thought about doing that. It's not about like copying. It's just like the whole thing is about soaking up the game. That was the best thing I got to do, was do first hours
Mm-hmm.
for guys that were way ahead of me.
Aye.
Because I just learned through being there. And I would ask Chris, I would say, why are you playing that? Like, and he'd be like, because you can't just go up and up and up and up and up
Aye.
and up. He's like,
Aye.
you need to create dynamics. You need
Aye.
to take them down to take them up. And then I would do the warm up, and he would say to me, like, I see before I go on, like, play some new shit. Just give them some new shit. I want
Mhm.
I want everybody to calm down and
Aye.
think about what's this record, what's that. And he's like, because when I go on, I'm going to hit them with.
Aye.
And I was just like, all right, cool. Because the assumption would be to warm up and impress somebody, you would be
Aye.
like, you
Go
want
full throttle.
And I've definitely done gigs where I'm just like, there's been a guy on before me and I'm like, what is that? What do I
Aye.
play now then,
Aye.
buddy?
Aye.
I'm so impressed that you played all the tunes, man. Let me thank you for my next event. But that's just that's just someone who's no soaked up the game
Aye.
properly. Do you know what I
Aye.
mean? Learned how to. I still open for DJs and do things like, the thing about everybody needs to be pulling in the same direction.
Mhm.
And that's what's good about working in a creative industry, and why this nightclub game is exciting. See, when you get a team that are putting together a venue or putting together a night, and everybody's got their role to play, but they're all excited about
Aye.
it. Because what you're trying to create is an experience
Mhm.
that people are hopefully going to come and enjoy. So see, when everybody's like, oh, this will be amazing. We should put all this time in, all this money in.
Mhm.
Why? Because people are going to come here. Yes, they're going to spend
Aye.
money. I get it. But, you know, you're looking at all these details about projects for events or venues, and you're like, it's like when you go to a concert and, you know, the last song goes off and there's fucking fireworks shooting and confetti.
Aye.
That shit costs a fortune. You'd still go if it didn't have it, but it just adds to it, you know what I mean? So when
Memories in it.
you've got
Aye.
like creative people all pushing in that same direction, it's like, that's when you think like, this is quite a good,
Aye.
it's a nice sector to work in.
Mhm.
Like, workplaces can be toxic,
Aye. 100%.
you know what I mean? So like to be, like I'm saying again, there's no point in getting your nose out. Like, everybody should just be, we're just trying to make good times for
Aye.
people. So
Aye.
surely the making the good time should be a good time.
Aye.
So when the idea of being in this and being like fucking hard to work with is just
Aye.
be, that'd be my biggest, be chill, man, be easy to work with. Just don't get above your station. Just soak up the game every way you can.
Aye.
Slide me a DM, man. Give you a
Right.
gig.
Mate, this has been unreal. Do you know, this is, it's actually opened my eyes to how it works, because it's a profession that I've probably looked at, even when you're in clubs and that, and you kind of think, how have they got to this space?
Mm.
Like, what's the story until then? And
Yeah, man.
like the way you're saying, you never think about the DJs that are in for the first tour. And
No,
that's
man, yeah.
that's everything to them at that point. But
Yeah.
there's maybe only 40 people in there, but it's
Yeah.
about building that
Yeah,
foundation.
that'd be like that's, you know what I mean? It's like the next guy. That's what, you know, that thing about, I'm like, everybody goes to a gig and they see, I won't say Aoki, I'll say somebody else now. I
Mhm.
feel like Aoki's getting to the night. Like, they go to see Swedish House Mafia, everybody's seen them, they know it was them.
Aye.
They're the heroes of the night. Whereas like, it goes back to that thing. It's like you go to a club, what do you expect to be there? Lights, booze, music. It's all a given.
Aye.
And like I'm saying, it's not like I'm taking like, you know, fucking high fives all night when I
Aye.
finish. Some nights people come up and go, mate, that was really good. And
Aye.
it goes a long way because they don't have to say that. It's expected. It should be good.
Aye.
The club should have got curated the right DJ to come in and fucking kill it on a Saturday night. It's a given. So not that it's like a thankless task, but it, you know, it is what it is. I wouldn't say like we're unsung heroes, but you know, you're right. It does go. You know, it can go kind of unnoticed, but I'm kind of cool with that, man.
Right.
Like, I've done gigs where I've been up on a stage and done a big thing, and I'm still like, they still don't really know who I am. Like, I
Aye.
still need to like
Aye.
do something. And again, it's not like when I leave here, I'm going to somehow be famous overnight. But I don't care, man, because it's like, proof is in. Like, if someone finishes, and even if they don't come and say it,
Aye.
if they feel like they had a good night, that's it. Like,
Aye.
that just is it. And when you're doing residencies, that shows in like, cool, right, I wonder how many people come back next
Aye.
week. Like, I've done, you know, someone, a girl came up the other night and she went, I need some like old school R&B. And I went, we need to establish what old school is. She went, well, I'm 25. And I was just like, right, cool, that gives us something, right? I said, where did you go clubbing when you were younger? And she said, Light. She went, oh, I went to Light, as if this was a throwback. Now, Light is a club on Royal just off Royal Exchange Square. That was one. It's now called Rumour, and before that, it was called Carbon. And Carbon was a big deal. And I'm like, yeah, I did Carbon from the day it opened to the day it closed. So before it was even called what you think it's called, I did like what, I don't know how long it was open. You know, I probably played for like your big sister,
Aye.
potentially your mum. So it's like, but what I'm saying is when I think to myself, in my whole tunnel era was
Aye.
before that. So I'm talking like having runs at clubs for like, I mean, I'm at Sanctuary for like Kokomo for 8 years now. Sanctuary coming up on 9 years. Did 6 years here. The years just fly by. But, you know, that's what it is, man. It's like you're consistent. Like if you have a night that is flying for years, like then you think to yourself, right, cool, man, I'm onto something here. Like I've built something and I'm going in and I'm rolling my sleeves up and try to make it work every week. Don't get me wrong, I'd love people to just be like, oh, you know, you can be famous off that shit, but you don't know. You couldn't name a famous Glasgow resident.
No.
Maybe in the 90s, everyone would say, you know, the Tunnel Boys like Kilkie and all them,
Aye.
Teavendale, they were kind of
Aye.
kind of famous, but
You just remember the tunes.
we're like, or the nights you would go
Aye.
on, oh, Thursday night was good. That's what people say to me. You know, that happens. People say, oh, I used to go to Carbon on a Thursday. That used to be the best
Aye.
night when I was young. And I'm like, that was me. And they're like, oh, I don't even know your name. Don't even know your name. Mate, I did that, you know, one of the gigs I did that was like insane was the stage at T they had called the Palm Stage. You know, I had it for 1 year and they had it all weekend, but on the Thursday night at T, obviously there's nothing on other than the slam tent. So there's an alternative slam tent. They had this outdoor stage and I ended up getting booked last minute and supposed to do 2 hours and it got cut down. They said, you're just doing the last hour. So I was like, even better, just smash through tunes, right? And everybody was playing, everyone on before me was playing house. And I don't just play house, I play like mad shit, all types of shit. And my mate was there and I was kind of about to bottle it. I went, Jig, I should just play house. I shouldn't rock the boat here. He went, you need to just do you, mate, or you're going to regret this. Go on. It's not really that many people here. This video's online and all. Go up there, start ripping it, man. Fucking House of Pain, hip hop, you know, it's housey stuff, everything. Eventually just it's slammed, man. And I'm just like buzzing off it, right? It's insane. I come off, my mate shows me all the video footage. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, it's insane, man. And then I meet people down the line that talk about T and I say, like, oh, did you go this year? Yeah. I said, do you remember there was an outdoor stage in the Thursday? I said, did you camp? Yeah. Did you go to this outdoor stage in the first? Oh, I was like, oh, that was unreal. Like, and I'm just like, still don't know who, like, no one's going, you're that guy. They're just like, there's just like a wee heat. just a wee heat in a wee box that was like giving you this like long lasting memory. And I wouldn't even go, oh, that was me, by the way.
Aye.
I'm just like, that was a good stage on it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
You don't even say it.
so it's just like, but that's the thing you go, that's like, do you know what I mean? That's currency, man. It
Aye.
just kind of feeds his soul, man. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Brilliant.
aye, good times, man.
Superb, mate. Honestly, what a story.
That's it.
I can't wait for this to go out because there's so many people have messaged about wanting to get into this industry, and if you can't pick anything up for this episode, then I don't think DJing's for you.
I mean, I'm honestly like, I'm just what I would say. I just kind of care about it.
Mhm.
I care about DJing. I care about the craft, which is why I can talk like this 100
Mhm.
miles an hour. I just can never. I just love kind of talking about the industry and talking about it as a job. And I'd like, if anyone did want to talk to me about doing it,
Mhm.
I could chat shit all day, man, and help them, because I just feel like, you know, if you get in and you're passionate, mate, I mean, you can make it. You
Aye.
can make it your job.
Aye.
People from school still had me. Meet them after years and years and years.
Aye.
What are you up to now? I'm just like, bear in mind, I was like the DJ in school. Like, if you're, I'm like, still just the DJ shit, and they're like, no, but what else you do? I'm like, nothing, man, just chill. And they're like, nah, like, as if, how did you do that? And I'm just like, just didn't spend all my money, and like, just, you know what I mean? Like, hard enough, man. I don't know how guys, a lot of guys do a day job, but no, man, I don't have the stamina. I need a lie in, man. So
Superb, mate. Brilliant.
appreciate it, bud. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Cheers.